Keith and the attendees, John. I don't know if that's Keith.
All right, we will call this special joint Board of Directors and Finance Committee meeting to order. This is a meeting to present the draft budget. It is 7:06 p.m. The board has a land acknowledgement and anti-racism statement that it has written and supports. It's posted on the board's website. Roll call tonight. We're missing Timey, Keith, Sam, and Kanu. And I believe we have everyone from finance, right? All right. Do you have a motion?
Missing Richard Walke's not here.
Missing Richard. Okay. All right. That's the roll call. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Move to adopt the agenda.
Second. All those in favor?
I have a clarifying question.
What's up?
Go
ahead.
So I'm unclear about is this just a meeting to just have the budget presented and we're going to have some Q&A, but what's presented is pretty much considered a done deal? Or is this something that's going to be part of several budget development meetings that the finance committee will work on and then refer to the board for final approval? I'm asking a process question.
So what we'll do is we'll review the preliminary draft budget that's been, as you can see, it's based on historical numbers and also our year-to-date budget and input from our department managers. Then what will happen is we'll go over that projected budget, and you guys can ask questions, that type of thing, interject concerns, anything like that. What we'll do then is the next finance committee meeting, we can delve a little deeper into it. That gives everybody a little bit more time to look a little closer at it after tonight. And we can revisit any additional questions or concerns. You guys can email Joel or myself prior to that meeting, and then we'll readdress that. And hopefully by the time we have this next meeting, everybody's questions and concerns will have been addressed. I mean, we did make some changes last year, based on input from the board and everything. And the finance committee, we went back, and then the finance committee reviewed it and made the recommendation to the board to approve the budget. So obviously that's our hope, is that you guys will appreciate the work that went into it, and that it's a good solid budget. It's balanced, and but that doesn't mean that there won't be anything that comes up that doesn't need some tweaking. But this gives us some time. We'll do this tonight. You guys can ask questions, but there'll be another opportunity to revisit that, give you a little more time to think about it.
And so given it's summer, people have plans, I know I do. How soon will these new meetings be scheduled?
So the next meeting is next Wednesday on August 3rd.
And is there one after that?
Well, there's not one scheduled. I would say that if we're seeing that there's a big issue and that there's something that really needs to be addressed, we'll definitely deal with that. We have time to do that before we have to take the final vote on the budget.
The intention really by the 3rd, we'll be ready to refer this to the board for approval.
That's our hope.
Okay.
That's our hope.
Thanks.
Nancy, do you know that what's the cutoff?
Sonia, should we approve the agenda first before someone forgets that needs to happen?
Well, I think Jessica's question was about the agenda, so the clarification is helpful for us to move forward and improve the agenda.
Sounds good.
So there's a cutoff of when we have to have, we have a date, and I don't have the calendar in front of me, but we have a date where it's the trigger for when the ballots have to go out of what our date is that we have to vote. And I cannot recall that date. Nancy, do you know what that is?
We have to have everything to unit let on September 9th, Friday.
So our date to vote is like that last week of August is the absolutely drop dead date to take a vote on the final budget.
You
If that
have
helps.
meetings scheduled on the 11th and 25th.
Yeah. So if that helps, Jessica, just kind of, I mean, ideally earlier is better. It helps us with the ballot packet. But again, if we need to be addressing something, we've got time to do that too.
That's great. Thank you.
Jacob?
Thank you. I just want to be super clear about the process. The board is going to be voting to approve the budget, but ideally by the end of the meeting next week on the 3rd, is that what you said, Sonia? The finance committee will make a recommendation to the board by the end of that meeting.
Right, ideally. So again, if we're seeing a lot of issues and we need more time to discuss, as Nancy just said, we've got some time built in there to do that.
Thank you.
Oh, that 9th of September is a drop dead date.
Right. But I just meant if we can't make, if it just looks like that there needs to be more discussion, we have time to do that. We have a couple more weeks to do that.
All right, well, motion on the table is to adopt the agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, hearing none. What?
Morgan was waving. I didn't know if she was.
I think she was trying to jump in to approve, I think.
Oh.
Yes, I was jumping in to approve. So I'm going bye-bye now.
Sounds good. All right, that motion passes and we will move on to the new business. I'd just like to start by thanking everyone that has taken time to put the documentation together, and thanking everyone here for spending the time to review and provide feedback and input on it. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to say at this point in time, and I'll pass it over to Sonia as the treasurer to make some opening remarks, and I think Joel will be presenting the draft budget.
Yep. And I'll just reiterate what AJ said. We're really grateful to all of you for taking the time to be here. And I'm especially appreciative of Joel. This has been a kind of a interesting budget season. We've had so many people down with COVID, the entire accounting department, our admin office, and then our reserve specialist actually came down with COVID from his site visit. So this has been kind of an interesting process, but we've done, Joel's just done an awesome job and put a lot of time into it. So thanks, Joel, and thanks for your crew for all their hard work. So I'll just I do have some notes here to go over regarding the budget and how the process works. So the Sun Valley Community Association's budget process utilizes the budgeting and planning processes developed by the 2020 Long Range Planning Committee and guided by the strategic priorities identified in the 2021 strategic planning sessions. Successful long-term organizational sustainability requires planning and a strategic planning process that identifies vital and measurable goals. Identified priorities have been pulled out of our mission, vision, and values and act as the guiding principles for association decisions and actions taken by both the board and staff. These identified priorities are the overarching strategies and values that will help us reach our shared vision. Recent challenges and opportunities related to the 2023 budget draft include accounting for additional payroll expenditures related to the union collective bargaining agreement, which was finalized in October of 2021, anticipated increases in property and casualty insurance, fuel, utilities, and prioritizing the maintenance of our infrastructure and facilities that have been neglected. The 2023 budget presented a unique mid-year challenge due to the 5-year REC special assessment that is expiring in May of 2023. The Recreation Special Assessment was an inappropriate member petitioned special assessment enacted to cover previous management's failure to properly budget recreational expenses within the operational budget. Member petitioned dues and assessments are invalid under RCW 6490-525, under which the process for budget approval is exclusively governed. RCW 6490-5253 further describes the method for SBCA to levy a special assessment. It requires SBCA to utilize the same process as for budget approval, which means that the membership cannot initiate a special assessment either through a special meeting or as a motion on the floor of the AGM. Only the board may approve a revised budget providing for a special assessment, which must then be submitted to the membership for ratification. At the 2021 AGM, the board put forward a bylaw amendment that was passed by a 2/3 majority vote of the members, amending Article 2, Section 2 of the SBCA bylaws, allowing the president to reject any petition that seeks to circumvent the legally required process for imposing a special assessment. Additionally, in 2019, 1,684 members passed the bylaw amendment to Article 3C, Section 19, placing reasonable limitations on annual dues and assessment increases. The bylaw limits an increase in base dues to no more than 7% annually. Once the recreation special assessment ends at the end of May 2023, dues cannot be greater than $141.81 per month on a developed lot. The proposed dues for a developed lot in 2023 will be $144.31 from January 1st to end of May 2023, which includes the REC special assessment, operations, and capital dues. Then from June 2023 to December of 2023, the total monthly operations and capital dues for a developed lot will then decrease to $141.81 to comply with the 2019 SGM dues limitation bylaw. Sudden Valley's operating budget for 2023 balances $3,969,961 in revenues with $3,969,961 in expenditures. And I'll throw it to Joel to actually delve into the budget.
Okay, I'll just pull the budget document open on my screen, then I'll share this thing. So now I take it everyone can see the budget document. Okay.
Looks great, Joel.
Good, and that's all there is to it. So I guess we can just vote on the thing. Then, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so now I believe this is posted on the website. I don't know, Sonia, do you know if it's on there yet or not?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so this is posted on the website, so any resident out there can now go out there and see that. We actually just kind of put the finishing touches on the formatting and all this stuff today, so it was a work in process, that's for sure. These documents always take way more time than what they look like, you know, behind the numbers and getting all the tables together and how it's going to look and stuff. So it really is time consuming. But I'll go ahead and start out on, so I'm going to hit the high level summary of this thing. So budget summaries, the bottom line is in terms of how much will your dues be. So the dues will be in, now we have a situation where the REC special assessment is expiring and at the end of May 2023. So at the end of May 2023, that rec special assessment goes away. So we kind of have a two-tiered system of what it's going to look like. So your dues will be, you'll have one level of dues between January 1 and May 2023, which will be 100. So for a developed lot, it will be $144.31, no change from what you're paying right now. And then in terms of on June, so June through the rest of the year through December 2023, that element, that rec special assessment element of it goes away. So then your the dues, the regular dues. So when I say regular dues, I'm talking about the dues that do not include the rec special assessment. So the regular dues will go up 7%. However, like what the bylaw limitation says, and I'll get to a page that will clearly show how that's calculated as well. But so maybe I'll just say at this point, the bottom line is June through December 2023, your dues will then, for a developed lot, actually go down to $141.81 because according to the bylaw limitation, that's as high as it can go at this point. I guess I'll quickly talk about this. I almost kind of thought about maybe skipping this at first, but this is just, this document shows up on all budget documents, and this is just a dues projection, and it just kind of shows you based on the planning for operations currently and the planning for capital planning, what your dues at this point could potentially look like. Now you see right here, January through May, that's how much your dues will be, $144.31. Like I said, June through December, $141.81. So that averages out, if you want to think about it, on an average amount to $142.85. And then 2024 through this, actually this table goes to 2023. If you read this note, we just kept it to 2027 just so the font wouldn't get so small if we actually put it out to 2032 on this page, but it'll look exactly the same. So it's like it just keeps repeating at this point with the capital planning. So for what we know right now, the dues will just look the same from 2024 through 2032. Now this, so I'm going on to page 3 of the document. This graph, this just shows you from a very high level standpoint, the dues that will fund operations. So like where those dues come from. Obviously this really small little slice that you can barely see is the mailbox. Then you have the capital roads, the purple, the SURF, capital repair and replacement reserve fund. And then you have your operations dues, the biggest slice of this light blue pie piece. And of course, now this is telling you operations regular dues income through May 2023 will be 58.28 for a developed lot. Then after that, 67.91. Then I'll get into how that's calculated in probably just a couple pages from now. And then you have a couple little operational slices. So the net marina income, which is actually this dark blue one. And then you have a little income coming in, operating income from golf, this other kind of, what do you call that? Whatever that color, aqua blue.
It's a cyan. It's like a cyan, I think.
Yes, exactly, cyan. So, and then this table here is actually, this will really delve down to, in case anyone's interested, like the calculations of how these, like how much money is coming in based on how many dues payers and developed lots versus undeveloped lots. So this top portion here is basically for the most part, well, except for when you get into the SURF stuff, but this is the operating portion of it. And then you get into the SURF portion of it. And then basically the bottom line is basically then you start getting into the bottom line elements right here, how much money is coming in operations versus capital, SURF roads, mailboxes. But that just shows, it just shows the revenue, the bottom line revenue is coming in more detail. Now, this is a high level summary. This shows you all the different departments for the proposed 2023. So this column right here is the 2022 budget column. And then here's the 2023. And then this shows you the increase or decrease. Now this could look a little kind of slightly confusing, like meaning obviously this column, this is this, or not column, but this section is the expenses. So there's an increase in expenses of 3.8% here. But you'll see there's also an increase in revenues of 3.8% as well. And this is showing you right here that the budget is, it's a zero budget, it's balanced. So, which means the revenues equal the expenses on this budget, which is exactly what we want when we come up with a budget. And you'll see various notes in here where, you know, where it's highlighting, it's kind of reminding you that the rec special assessment expires at the end of May 2023. Now, this next pie slide, or this next pie chart, this is basically just showing you a high level view of the breakdown of what your dues pay for. So like, for example, you're paying $144.31 a month for your operating dues, which includes the rec special assessment in there combined. And then this pie chart just shows you how that kind of gets distributed to fund the different departments. You'll see golf is not on here anymore because golf is pulling in a small net income. So golf is actually now winding up here, and the same with marina. So marina pulls in more than their expenses. So essentially what that's saying is your dues don't go to fund the operations of the marina or the operations of the golf. So that's, and we're not talking about the capital portion of it. I'm just talking about the operating portion. And Sonia's already talked about this high level viewpoint. Okay, so now you've probably seen this chart before and during other budget years, and this is showing you how your dues are actually, like, what's making up your dues. So for example, January through May 2023, your dues will still be 144.31, and right here to the left of this is the 2022 due structure right now. So, but you'll see, because the special assessment does go up according to the rec special assessment. So you'll see that it's gone up. It's 1178 currently for a developed lot. It'll be 1213 for a in 2023. And then what we've done for the first 5 months of 2023 is we've decreased the operating dues to make up for that, to still keep your dues at flat, 144.31, and versus obviously what it is right now, 144.31. Now for a developed lot, it's basically the exact same story. It's the developed lot. Rec special assessment will go up because that's what the special assessment mandates. But then the operating dues have been decreased, just like it was done for this year and the year before in the budget, to keep the rec special assessment flat, or I mean the total monthly dues that a person pays for a vacant lot. They pay $134.67 right now. They'll pay it January through May, $134.67 as well. Actually, let me get to the June through December piece of it. Okay, so now this is where I'll show you how this gets calculated, how it goes from 58.28 to 67.91 here on the next page. But you'll see now the dues go from, oh, and by the way, like if I just backtrack a little, January through May, you'll notice there's no difference in the capital due structure. So you're paying the same amount capital dues wise. And regardless of what time period you're in, that capital structure stays exactly the same. So 3610, 3610, 3610 again. Same thing, same for roads, same for mailboxes. So the only thing that's changing right here in 2023 in June will be the operations component of it. It'll go from 58.28 for a developed lot to 67.91. However, now you'll notice the rec special assessment drops off because it expires. So this goes to zero. So now you'll see in the total monthly dues that you'll pay for a developed lot, it actually went down $2.50. It's now $141.81 June through December versus $144.31 like it is now and like it will be for the first 5 months of 2023. Now for the developed lots, actually, this is one little situation to where, so basically when these dues went up right here, what, and I'll get into this more on the next page, but basically it's a look back on your regular dues. So in a sense, it's 58.63 and then this other stuff, the other capital stuff. So then your dues basically, according to the 2019 SGM, can go up 7%, and that's it. And so the total dues 5863 plus the 7390 to increase that 70 or 7%, you'll come to 141.81 right here. Now with the undeveloped lots, we could have bumped this up 7%. This is actually really close to being 7% up. It's 6.8 or something like that. It's very close, but we elected to keep it, to take just a little bit less, just so in this case, so the vacant lot owners won't have to pay more per month. So that's why the vacant lot owners, that's why they're flat all year long. Because if we actually, bump them up a true 7%, then they would actually pay, I forgot what it is, like 50 some cents or something like that, a little more per month. But just for the ease of paying dues and coupons and writing checks and ACHs and, like setting that up at your bank and all that stuff, we kept these flat at 134.67. And the only real difference between if he would have really bumped this up a true 7% versus what we did would be like $1,600 or so with the 95% collection rate. So it really, might even be more expensive than that just to come up with a postage for new coupon books for the vacant lot owners. So, so we've kept them flat at 134.67. I'll come back to this FTE chart in just a second. I'll go back to, or I'm going to move on to this, the calculation. So basically this page, it actually gets into a little more detail than what's been shown in years past, but this is showing you the rec special assessment, how many lots, for 5 months and the amount that's being paid. And there's the amount that we're taking in. This is bad debt expense, and that's based off of, so for 2023, we're basing this off of a 95% collection rate. We feel it's fine to do that because even in 2020, when we had the bad pandemic year, we still even came in over 95%, 95.5%. Let's just say we came in at 94%, then that would mean you'd be looking at like $22,000 or so dollars. So it really wouldn't be the end of the world one way or the other. So that we feel like collection rate is a pretty safe collection rate to go with. Now, this section here shows the regular operations dues, how that gets calculated. And you'll see this is obviously the January through May portion. So the ops dues had to come down a little just to make up for the increase in the rec special assessment. Same thing for vacant lot owners. And then you'll see this is the June through December portion right here, where it goes up. And like, for example, these colored boxes, 67.91. So it correlates to this box down here. And this shows you the calculation, shows you current 2022 monthly dues. These are the regular dues, it doesn't include the special assessment, obviously. That comes up to a total $132.53. 2019 SGM maximum increase 7% on this 132.53 means that we could raise it $9.28 according to the SGM. And then we're proposing to fully apply that to the operations dues. So then it's that 58.63 here, the red plus the 928 comes up with the 67.91. And that's the new operations dues amount, 67.91. The same process applied to the vacant lots as well. Now you'll see that the total monthly, or we could, according to the SGM, we could bump it up $8.85, but here we're proposing to take a slightly lower amount, $8.28, and then that's how the $60.77, where we come up with that for vacant lot owners for the operations dues. Capital dues, then we'll say exactly the same all throughout 2023, but that's how it conforms with the SGM. Of course, the SGM says that it could go up to 7%. We don't have to take 7%, but it can go up to that. Before I get into the main, before we hit some highlights in the main budget, I'll backtrack just a little bit to this FTE chart right here. And this is basically just showing you the budgeted FTEs by year. It goes all the way back, in this case, 2019. So it's, 2022, 37.27 FTEs. It's fairly similar. You'll notice that it's dropped by about 3 FTEs, and I'll tell you why it's dropped by 3. Well, actually, this footnote that I put on here gives away most of it. It's just basically that Sun Valley and the Teamsters Union, the union that the staff is within out here at Sudden Valley. So we entered into a mutual agreement with them. So we have 2 FTEs of the Parks Department. So the union and Sudden Valley have agreed to basically fold those 2 into the Parks Department, meaning the 2 FTEs that are in Parks can just be not filled. So basically the 2 people that worked in Parks actually applied and took the 2 open slots in the maintenance department. So that's how those individuals like have been folded into maintenance. And then the Parks maintenance will then in the future be kind of taking care of all of the maintenance work, including the parks. So that's how 2 of those FTEs have dropped off. Now, maintenance and parks might look a little strange, and I'll tell you exactly why. And that's because we had the rec special assessment that goes through May of 2023. So the rec special assessment obviously goes to pay for, rec, pools, parks. So we also want to basically signal right here that 0.84 FTE. So 2 people used to be in parks. So we want to say 2 FTEs, 5 months out of the year comes out to approximately 0.84. We're going to go ahead and slot that, or just kind of earmark it for parks, even though they are maintenance people. So just to kind of recognize the fact that we have that SGM that people are paying for their recs, pools, and parks through that SGM through May. And then for the rest of the year, then those 2 FTEs would belong up here in maintenance. But these workers, this 0.84 truly are maintenance people. We're just kind of pulling them out of here and just kind of parking them in parks for the first 5 months, just to signify that these 2 are dedicated to parks because of the SGM. And then one other, now we did this last year where we recognized a couple of people that they were spending some of their time in other departments, and then we recast their time, their FTEs, to the departments that they were spending the most time and truly working in. So just one other little change was, it's actually kind of one of the last changes was, Gulf Enterprise, 0.15 FTEs from Jeremy when he was here was also in parks. Now the new individual, Greg, so his FTEs will be fully dedicated to Gulf Enterprise. And then also William Lingblom, he had about, we moved 0.35 FTEs away from maintenance, where 0.35 FTEs at this time was slotted or charged to. We moved that and pointed that back to turf as well, since Lingblom is spending preponderance of his time in turf. So those are basically, oh, and then with one exception, Marina. So the Marina, the 1 FTE that we have in Marina, we're eliminating that position since the rec center is taking over that Marina work, and they have, or they will in 2023. Now, since that's a really good, basically high-level view of the budget and what goes into the budget, then I'll just turn to the budget pages. And I'm going to hit on like big level items, so I'm not going to nitpick over every single little line item. And like, for example, I'm not going to point out, something went up by 300%.
Hey, Joel, can I ask a question, or
Yes.
do I need to wait? I don't know how to do this for sure.
How are we doing this? Are we?
We ask questions as we go along.
Well, I guess we could do it after this, since that's kind of a section. I suppose that might be fine. Yeah, go ahead.
So you're getting rid of the marina, which I understand is going to be taken over the Recs department. But the Recs department, did the FTEs go up in the Recs department to account for that marina person?
Yeah, that position is actually, Alex Allen is actually, it's a new position that was created that we negotiated for him. And so instead of it being a marina assistant manager, he's now the assistant manager of Parks and Rec. And so it's sitting within the Rec Community Center.
Right, we're just sitting there, but we didn't add anybody. We've actually removed a position. I'm just trying to clarify that I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's actually a net decrease of 1 FTE.
Okay.
So we did have someone at the marina like full time. It never used to be that way. It just happened, maybe 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, it was there for 3 years. I was just
Yeah.
noticing the things. I was just wondering what happened to that position.
Yeah.
I just had some people ask where those people were, because they were having a hard time. getting information about the marina. So,
Oh, I
okay,
see.
good to
Yeah.
know. I need to figure out how to, oh, here, lower my hand, thanks.
Jessica, did you?
Thanks. So yeah, I had a lot of questions about the FTEs too. So salaries are going up 90K in the budget, and we're reducing 3 FTEs.
And I'll get into the salary stuff.
Yeah, I'm just asking this now. So I'm wondering, and I also was the deputy GM budgeted in 2022? Because I thought that was a new position.
I mean, the ops manager, the operations manager.
His position.
The operations manager was not budgeted in 2022 at the time, but so basically the operations manager is kind of taking over there's a slot also for what was the admin services manager. So the operations manager is in a sense kind of filling that role, meaning that salary slot.
So essentially the FTEs in admin remain the same.
Right, remain the same, exactly, yes.
You got rid of one position and you added another.
Right, yeah. So instead of an admin services manager, now the operations manager is fulfilling that role.
So this is philosophical, I get it. But my concern is that over the past many years, there has been a constant erosion of the actual services and maintenance of our common areas. And I'm seeing now that we're reducing maintenance again.
No, actually maintenance is not going down.
It's,
I mean, it looks like it. I mean,
There's 5 full-time maintenance staff. There's actually 5 full-time maintenance staff.
3.78 from
It's
4.97.
It's because it's taking some of their pay from parks. It takes some of their pay from capital. And so that's what he's saying, like, it's kind of diversifying where they're getting paid. And that's how that number is. But there's actually 5 full-time maintenance workers. There's the maintenance superintendent. We have a maintenance foreman. We have a much more robust maintenance staff than in the past. And then we have maintenance worker 1, maintenance worker 2. We have 3 of the maintenance worker 1 positions, and then a maintenance worker 2, which is a more senior level. And then
maybe the semantics thing. So I'm showing in 2022, initially 5 FTEs. And then we had 2 FTEs in parks. And
yeah, I mean, Jessica, I explained this. I don't know if you heard that. Like right before I went back to this page, I explained the difference between the maintenance and the parks. I can explain it again if you need it, but maybe you didn't hear that explanation.
I'm asking a question.
Right, and I'm telling you, it was explained. I can explain it again, but.
Can I ask my question?
Sure, go ahead, yes.
So if you add 5 plus 2 plus 1, or well, close to 2, that's close to 7, right, FTEs? 4.97 plus 2.5 plus 1. Is that right?
What are you adding up on that?
Okay, 2022 maintenance, 4.97, so essentially 5. And then there were 2 FTEs in parks, so that's 7.
Are you trying to figure out the total difference in FTEs?
I can see the difference in FTEs. We've reduced overall 3 FTEs, right?
That's correct. Yes, 3.
And what I'm trying to figure out is, and it seems, according to this chart, that most of that 3 FTE reduction is in maintenance and parks.
No, it's not. It's not at all, actually. And I explained this. Let me explain this again, actually. So I'm going to start this all over again, what I said the first time. But we have maintenance right here, 3.78 FTEs, right? So this note, I don't know if you read this footnote right here, and I also explained this.
Because I didn't get it until 2 hours.
Let me finish the explanation.
It's kind of hard to.
If you don't mind, Jessica, I'll just finish the explanation. So basically, the union and SVA, as Sudden Valley and the union, they entered into an agreement that we have 2 FTEs in parks. We had 2 FTEs in parks. Those 2 people in parks applied for the open maintenance positions and they took them. So the union and Sudden Valley entered into this agreement to where, okay, those 2 people that went to parks or that went to maintenance, those 2 parks positions don't need to be filled because maintenance will now take on like all the maintenance activity, including the park stuff. So, but the reason why I chose to put 0.8 for FTEs down here, these are really maintenance FTEs, but I plugged them down in parks. This is just to signify that for the first 5 months of 2023, we have the rec special assessment. And we're basically saying that 0.84 of FTEs, which is really 2 people from maintenance, will be dedicated to the parks work for the first 5 months of the year. And then, so you need to take the 3.78 FTEs, add 0.84 to that. And then you'll find out that you're missing about 0.35 FTEs. And which is another thing that I explained, 0.35 of those FTEs actually was a person who worked in maintenance, actually the mechanic in maintenance, but the preponderance of his time, the vast majority of his time is spent in turf care. So we just repointed that 0.35 FTEs away from the maintenance to turf. And there's the difference. If you added those back in there, you'd have 4.97.
Okay, so let me ask my question in another way. The FTEs in 2023 are 34.28.
That's correct, yes.
22, they were 37.27, which represents a reduction of 3.
3, right. And what 3 positions?
Let me finish my question. So if it's not in maintenance, where are those 3 FTEs being taken from?
They're being taken from parks here. They're being taken, the 2 parks personnel with the negotiation with the union. They determined because what they were being paid in parks was 17. Now what it is that those workers wanted to have a higher rate of pay. And so it made better sense. The union approached us and asked us to combine the maintenance and parks position. So we negotiated an MOU with them to where we eliminated those parks positions. And now all of our maintenance staff, not just 2, but all 5 of our maintenance staff are now responsible also for the parks. So you'll actually start to see more. And I think you guys have started to see that already, that there is more care going on with the parks because all of our maintenance staff is responsible for that. And so that's the 2 that you're talking about. Those 2 parks actually were moved over to maintenance. So it eliminated the 2 parks positions plus the marina position.
But according to this, that isn't what happened. So again, let me rephrase my question. If we're down 3 FTEs, what department are those 3 FTEs coming from?
2 are coming from parks. 1 is coming from marina.
And so in that case, it should have gone up to.
So what he's just saying, the 0.85, it's a placeholder because for half of the year that they will be paid 0.85 person will be paid from the rec special assessment because that's how the rec special assessment is structured, is to pay for parks staff. So until the rec special assessment ends, that will continue to pay towards their salaries and wages.
So we're taking the 2.15 and we're moving 1.5 up into maintenance. So that would mean then maintenance
think about it like this. Think about the 2 parks FTEs like this. So basically, if we didn't do that, we'd have 2 FTEs down here. And then maintenance, let's just say we didn't do anything to maintenance. We'd have 4.97 FTEs up here. Then we'd have 2 parks down here. And then when the 2 people in parks took the 2 open jobs in maintenance, then the union and Sun Valley agreed that, okay, well, those 2 FTEs in parks can be, you don't have to fill those again with dedicated parks people. And so that's where you could think of that going.
So
Right. So
why
in which-
don't I throw this out, and this might help, Jessica, just for the
Then-
sake of time. Why don't we have Joel? Joel can actually, why don't we do an actual full-time, employee list? So that you can see an actual employee
know. I
count
don't-
versus what,
Because I'm not caring about the individuals. What I'm looking at is the numbers. And if we removed 2 FTEs from parks and moved them to maintenance, then maintenance should go to 6.97.
No, there were 2 positions open in maintenance at the time, meaning
Yeah,
like 2 unfilled.
I'm just talking about the budget. I'm not talking about the individual circumstances of the people involved.
Oh, yeah.
we have 5 positions budgeted in maintenance.
But that's not what this shows. It shows 3.78.
I think one of the clarifications is the duties of those people fall under maintenance now and the positions were eliminated. Is that what's trying to be said?
Right, but there's still,
Right,
some of their pay is still having to come from parks, some of their pay comes from capital, and that's why you're seeing that breakdown.
Like
So
those
is the
positions are
budget-
eliminated, but not the duties that those positions were doing.
That's
Not
correct.
where,
Yes.
yeah, not where the funds are coming
Yeah.
from.
Right, so you have fewer people doing the same amount of work according to this FTE schedule. You don't have 5 people in maintenance, you have 3.78. That's what this shows.
No, what this shows is that you've got the funding of 3.78 in maintenance, another 0.84 is in parks, but if that's actually going to maintenance workers as well, so that gets you up to 4.62. And then there's a little bit more coming from a marina position that no longer exists, but
that's
that's
a
still
rec-
being charged.
That's a rec position though, right? So I see.
Well, there's also capital, but there's roads and there's additional funding that pays for maintenance that comes from our capital too.
I can't
Okay,
ask.
so I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with funding though. This has to do with actual bodies, that's FTEs. So,
Well, that's why that's why I said, I think there's an easy solution to this to make it clearer is that, if we do the list of the actual FTE count, they'll actually show this and it'll show how many's in each department. And then this shows the budget breakdown. And I
Yeah,
think that
Okay.
might be more helpful if you can have both of those.
it
in
may,
front of you.
I just think that I'm totally understanding where Jessica's coming from. And what I'm seeing in front of me is a net decrease in FTEs.
I
So
agree.
that
There's a
if-
net,
yeah.
there's a net
Yeah.
decrease in FTEs, absolutely on this page.
There
Sure,
is,
I mean,
there's
there's
3,
no-
it's a 3, decreases 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
Absolutely.
it's right there. We went from 3.27 to 30.
But that's not what was said. No, that's where the confusion came from. That's where the confusion came from. That's not what was said except for Jessica. So, yeah.
So there are 3 FTEs that have been reduced, 1 from the marina, 2 from parks. And the 2 from parks did not go up into maintenance. Maintenance went from 5 full FTEs to about 3.5 or 3.25.
Well, maintenance
No. No.
continues to have
No.
5 full-time employees.
That's not what this shows though. So if they do in fact have 5 FTEs, then that's the number that should be reflected in the 2023.
Well, there's 2 different, we're talking 2 different things. And like I said, I think there's a way to do that where we can show the actual
Yeah.
full-time employee numbers
Yeah,
versus
just a second.
versus the breakdown.
Well, just start over there.
Versus the breakdown of the actual funding for each of those positions. And I think that's where the confusion's coming in. So I think what we'll do is that we'll just have Joel break them down both ways and you can compare them together. And I think it'll make a lot more sense. And it'll solve it. I feel like that'll take care of the issue.
That may help.
The concern is that we're down 3 FTEs and nobody can tell me where exactly that is.
Well, we are telling you that it's the 2 parks employees no longer, those positions don't exist anymore. They were negotiated away with the union.
I get all of that. I don't need to
And
hear
the
that.
marina position no longer exists.
I get all that. I don't need to hear that again. But I mean, your numbers are not reflecting what you're saying. So I would like
so
you to
is
get back to
The numbers show where the budget
Yeah.
where
the-
their time is
Right.
budgeted
Right,
towards.
exactly.
Right.
Some
So,
people
so
work,
we have
some
5
people may
in
work in multiple budget departments.
You're down at 3 FTEs.
Yes, that's what it
Can
says.
we do an org chart?
And if it's not in maintenance.
Yes, that's why I'm suggesting that I think it'd be better if we just provide that, and it'll make more sense once you can actually see it, how it breaks down and how
Hey,
it's right
Sonia,
there. Yep.
real quick. I mean, I'm going to talk over you, but we all got to stop talking over each other. This is getting messy. Please. Thanks.
So I'm just going to say something quickly, and hopefully this will help clarify. The numbers here are the budgeted support for FTE workers, but that is not all the FTE workers that are working in maintenance. All of the budgeted amount in parks is now working in maintenance. And there's a budgeted amount in marina that's working in maintenance. So while it doesn't show 4.97 in 2023, in fact, it's still going to be 4.97 of maintenance workers. But we are down then 1 marina worker and 2 parks workers. So that's
3, right.
Not what your numbers show.
So I'm going to suggest that we do exactly what I was talking about, so we can move forward, and we'll put the documentation together. It's going to break out the actual number of full-time employees, all of our employees, and also how that relates to this table. And then you'll be able to, provide additional questions and comments, and we'll try to address it further, because I think we need to go ahead and move past this section.
Right.
Sonia, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that for you. I just meant it as the group. Thanks.
It's Sandy had her hand up.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, my first budget. And it looks to me like security / ACC used to be 2.25, and now we're down to just 1 security person? Or am I reading this wrong?
Well, like in years past, okay, so one of those FTEs was the security manager. So, so we did not budget for a security manager last year. So it was a security manager and basically a full-time ACC staff person that typically, and 0.25 of that FTEs also used to be the collection specialist that had quarter of her time going to there, and we repointed that, kind of like what I did with maintenance and turf. We repointed 0.25 FTEs of her time from HCC back to accounting.
Right, that's why accounting looks like it went up. It didn't. It has the same number, but we just, she's fully funded out of the accounting budget.
And the only reason I'm asking is because, again, I'm new, but security seems to be a really hot topic with a lot more car break-ins and that kind of thing. And if we truly only have 1 security staff member.
This isn't
that's a contracted, and those are
Right.
contracted employees. They're not part of this.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And then the responsibility of oversight of security is part of the general manager and the ops manager's job duties.
Okay. But there's more than 1 body associated with the security task.
Yeah, through Pacific
Right.
Security.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Contractor.
that's separate from the, like AJ said, that those people are totally separate from the FTEs that you see on this chart.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess now we'll just go into the budget, and like I said, I'll just hit like high points. I won't hit on lines that, even though you might see a 500% increase, winds up being $1,500 or something like that, or vice versa. I'll just hit on the big changes. And now many of these we've already talked about. Some of these we'll talk about, which actually kind of lead into the FTEs discussion as well. But the biggest change here would be right here, the total dues and assessments income, which is going up because of the increase in the dues. So the rec special assessment amount is not reflected in this line item. That's reflected on the recreation page. So on common costs, this is only just operations dues. So that's what leads into that. Maybe the only real notable line item on, well, a couple on this page, we did bump up legal services by about 8%. Of course, we don't know from one year to the next what we're going to encounter with legal problems or it's legal advice that we might have to seek or whatever. So this one's a little more difficult to project how much this would actually be. So we just bumped it up 8% in this case. Now, insurance premiums, of course, this is another line item that went up 8% because it's a little difficult knowing how much insurance could go up. It didn't really go up as much last year with the 1850 Lake Whatcom Boulevard purchase. Obviously, will also, some is budgeted in this for increased insurance costs as well for that building.
Again, do I just raise my hand or do I wait till the end of?
Yeah, could you wait to the end of this section?
Sure,
That would
I'd
be
be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're into the accounting department. Of course, the good thing is years past, like the
My
managers.
question was on common cost. So are we going to stop after each section? I went line item, and looked at things. I have a few questions.
How do you want to handle? Do you want
We
to?
just went through common cost. Can I ask a question about common cost before we move on? I just have one question.
Up to you, Joel.
Oh, okay. No, you can't. No, I'm just kidding. I'll go back.
It's just the legal services, and it's not. I know you said your increases, which is great, but I just wanted to reflect that. If you
that was just a joke, Gene. By the way.
Thank you, Joel. I know. Thank you. But so just if you look at 220 and 221, our legal costs were 70 and 82. Year to date, we're at 73,000. So I just want people to think about how much they're going to really allocate to legal services because it could be a lot more than 60,000. That was my comment.
There we go. Yeah, in 2021, legal services were higher than historical because we were dealing with the CBA, that collective bargaining agreement with the union,
right,
which involved the attorney. Now, and the good thing is, of course, the CBA is ratified. So we won't expect to see such a hit like that, especially dealing with a collective bargaining agreement. Of course, I remember that going through that whole thing from most people, will never have dealt with something like that from scratch, which is basically what the association had to do.
Right. Yeah. My concern is it was higher in 2020 and then in 2022 year to date it's 73. So just observation.
Yeah. Right. Was that the only question you had, Gene, on common cost? Sure. Okay. Now, since we're in the accounting department, we know that these numbers are obviously right. The only real thing for accounting, it's really not that big of a dollar amount, but I guess I'll point it out. So I guess I'm kind of breaking my rule a little. But so the printing and copying costs, so we're bumping that up to basically reflect the fact that since we do have dues, two kind of sets of dues, one through January through May, then the next one through June through December, we'll have to send out 2 booklets to people, 2 coupon booklets. So we bumped this up some for that. The big thing, which will be the same pretty much for all departments, except for when you see departments with decreases in FTEs. But the big thing you'll notice is this increase in payroll and benefits. Basically, these 3 line items: salaries, payroll taxes, payroll benefits, medical. So the CBA, in a weird sort of way, the CBA almost makes this part a little easier. So with the CBA, it calls for in 2023 a 3% increase. All union people will get a 3% increase. So pay has been increased 3%. Now, another thing too, this will get a little more difficult to compare this to the prior year budget, because you'll notice that's 12.37%. So keep in mind, when we budgeted the 2022 budget, the union rates, we didn't know. They weren't, we weren't that far along enough into the process to know what the union rates would be. So what we budgeted for in 2021, or I mean for 2022, what we budgeted for in 2021, that was a moving target. So in 2022, because the collective bargaining agreement didn't get ratified until the end of October 2021. So then pay rates went up. The union pay rates went up for union staff. So meaning, like, if you were to look at if you could see all of 2022, if it could just magically show up in terms of the year was done, it's going to be, like, it's not going to reflect exactly on par with budget, since that was a moving target. So that's why when you see what we budgeted for versus the 2023 budget, of course, it'd be a fair question. Well, why that's 12.37%, not 3%. And that's because of the fact that, like, so basically when this got budgeted, obviously this year for 2023, then I'll take the current rates right now, what people are getting paid, and then start building in 3% increases to that. And then obviously payroll taxes go up along with that. The payroll medical benefits, this is very formulaic too. The CBA contract calls for an exact dollar amount of how much we'll pay out in medical benefits for each employee. So we budgeted for precisely what the CBA says that will be paid out for staff members. But overall, that's why you'll see this general increase in payroll and benefits.
Okay, I have a question still though. Accounting, are we done with
Sure, yeah.
accounting? Can I,
Yeah.
okay, so you answered one of them. Thank you for that, Jill, because
Yeah.
I couldn't figure that out. But the other one is, what has, where is it? 7095, other professional services and accounting, what was that used for in past years?
Yeah, okay, so that's a great question. What this was used for in the past years would be, like, they would, the accounting manager, would bring in temporary accounting staff during the audit period to help out. And then so, like, usually from Express, and then those invoices would get charged to this line item. Now, we don't have to budget anything for that, because we have a part-time accountant who came on board in 2022. So there's no need to bring anyone in from Express.
So, and is that part of the increase in salaries then in 2022?
Yes. You mean, what do you mean by that?
Well, you said in 2022, you brought on somebody, a new person.
Yes. Actually, yes. Matter of fact, that person was already built into the 2022 budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not hard questions, just clarifying.
No, that's a good question, especially with that other professional services. Now, basically, the biggest change for facilities once again is going to be salaries. And basically, facilities has the one FTE who provides the janitorial services around here, and that's basically what that is. And also, some of his time is allocated as well to the rec department, clean up the rec department, because of the SGM. I mean, not the SGM, but the rec special assessment as well. Another thing I'll point out too, and actually facilities really would be the first department where this would start to get pointed out to, would be the utilities increase. So we increased a couple things that we increased just kind of across the board. One of them is definitely utilities. So basically we compared this to prior years. We would generally kind of keep the increase to approximately around 8%. We kind of maybe went higher on some departments, but it won't, like here, obviously the 2023 budget's being compared to the 2022 to come up with this percentage change. But in some months, we might not look at the 2022 budget. We might look at the 2021 actual or 2020 actual, and if that seemed more appropriate, then we would build like an 8% increase in that. Or sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, like like communication services paying for like a phone line or like a cell phone reimbursement, especially if someone is not in an apartment anymore and we don't have that, then we might, we would, then we bump that amount down. Okay, probably the biggest line item here in terms of like the other professional services that went up 900%, even though it's 9,000. But so this is basically, we're anticipating contract for gutter cleaning services throughout the association. So that's why you'll see that increase. So it wasn't done haphazardly, that it was very specific in mind.
Question?
Those are the, Jane, if you have a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really will probably about every section. So sorry about the Joel. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to clarify. So can we go up to the lease income from the restaurant? So I don't think we have any, I think probably everybody knows that restaurant is not functional right now, or very minimal functionally right now, using their downstairs kitchen. So my question is, can that income from that lease, I don't think we've gotten anything this year from it, at least not recorded. And can we depend on that next year, considering their kitchen still isn't functional? I wonder, how do you sort of.
Board approved the kitchen repair. It took a while because we had to do full building assessment. There was a lot of damage there. There had to be a dry out and remediation and everything.
Right.
And we actually had several people that refused to do the work. A lot of these commercial kitchen companies did not want to even touch it. But we anticipate that the kitchen will be complete at the end of August. As far as the payment, they have a lease. They are supposed to pay monthly. We've spent quite a lot of time and money trying to negotiate with them a reduction in their lease, calculated based on the amount of space that they currently use. And we allow them the full use of the upstairs. The only thing that they're not able to use is the actual kitchen itself, but they can use the decks, they can use the bar area, the seating area inside, etc. They use the storage, the coolers, the offices that are in there. It's literally just the kitchen that they're not able to access. But that being said, no, they don't pay on a regular basis at all. And we've encountered, we've talked about this in board meetings, because there's ongoing issues because the Cruz Landeros is not actually on the lease. He's not the signer on the lease.
Yeah, I don't.
And so he doesn't negotiate. We have an ongoing problem because they will not renegotiate. We have repeatedly tried to reach an agreement with them to lower the lease amount, but they will not resolve that.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know all that stuff, and that's not really my point.
Well, you're asking whether or not they're going to pay, and it's hard to predict because you're not paying now.
Okay, so that's great. That's the answer. It's hard to predict. So then, can we count on it? It sounds like you're doing the kitchen, so hopefully in the future you will be able to count on that income, because then they should be able to fully operate again. Is that what you're saying? Is that how I understand it? I guess the anticipation, since it's there, that is money that
right. We're anticipating that they're going to fulfill their obligation.
Okay.
Yeah.
We may not get the back stuff. Hopefully we do, or at least, like, you said, you're negotiating. I'm just trying to understand that we're not putting a number in there that we really don't think is going to ever develop, because then that's not a good way to do a budget. So if we think that money is actually going to be there, then it's great. I hope that it can all work out for everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, and that just got approved by the board. It was last Thursday, wasn't it? For that kitchen repair.
Okay. And then I don't think there's, I think 521, what was it, 5125 IT support. So I don't think it was a lot of money, but I'm assuming that must have been rolled in somewhere else because it seems like everybody needs IT support somehow. IT support.
Yeah.
Before they had 9,000, 11,000, and on the support, did that get rolled in somewhere else?
Yeah, that's just being plugged into like more appropriate areas like admin and stuff. Like you can see how it's nothing that has been billed to this so far in May of 2022.
Okay, and then the new acquired building, would that be part of facilities? Is that where this would be supported as far as whatever that building needs, or is that somewhere else?
What is that? What, Gio?
Well, like the new building, is that included? So the expense of the new building, functioning, operating that new building, would that be in here too?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Okay.
Like yes.
Okay, so that's figured into these numbers. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
we added that, the utilities have been all added in there.
Oh, right.
The
Yes.
insurance, the property taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, exactly. Like utilities, insurance, property taxes. There's a line item in capital planning as well for them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, for golf management, one increase that we did build into this is with the revenues. So like you can see, and I think it was fairly kind of conservative increase, but like if you look at between 2018 and 2019, the difference, so it's about a 14% increase in actuals, like total revenue. Between 2019 and 2020, this was the smaller one. This is about 1.8%. Between 2020 and 2021, it jumped to about a 21% increase in actual revenues from golf. So, just in case, like for example, with golf, that this was a more rosy year than like in the past, we just built into this a just a conservative 1% increase is what we built in from the 2021 actuals. So actually, that would be the smallest increase from previous years of like going from 2018 to 2019, 2019 to 2020. So with this, basically, this is if you look back on the 2021 actuals, we're building in about a 1% increase. And then that's what gives you the 1.132 million. Now, the biggest change with golf, of course, is going to be in salaries and benefits. We have two departments. We'll get to turf and a few departments after this, but golf enterprise is made up of this golf department, which all the revenue comes in here to golf. And then the turf enterprise. So like when you see the monthly financial statements and it says golf enterprise, it's a combination of this golf management, and you'll see like a few departments down the turf department. So what's built into golf is basically, it's like I said before with the other departments, 3% increase to union salaried people. It's just 3% increase in salaries with the exception of like minimum wage workers. Well, actually the 3% was built in to all minimum wage people as well, just in case there is an increase in the minimum wage. And then obviously payroll, medical benefits, it's all formulaic in terms of what the CBA says that we have to pay out. And CBA stands for collective bargaining agreement between the Teamsters Local 231 Union and Sudden Valley. Once again, utilities, you'll see utilities going up as well. So we're going to do this based on roughly around 8%, whether we're looking back on the budget before or if the prior year numbers clearly made more sense to look at that as well.
And the same thing with fuel because of gas prices.
Yeah, and vehicle fuel as well. So vehicle fuel, we actually worked into this an approximate like 15% increase based off of literally, we tried to do about 15%, but we would use more if it seemed appropriate to do it, like looking back on a prior year, especially prior year or years. So the biggest categories where we definitely, increased, no question about it, would where you'll see it will be insurance, payroll tax, or obviously payroll taxes, but property taxes, also including 1850 Lakeside Boulevard. Is it Lakeview or Lakeview?
Lake Wacom.
Lake Wacom Boulevard, 1850 Lake Wacom Boulevard. Property taxes, property insurance as well, utilities, like that extra building is also worked into this.
So Joel, can I
sure.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Sorry, so back at the beginning, I just, the year to date, it's hard to know I'm just curious how the golf course is doing, and do you think it's gonna make its 2022 budget? I know that last year was actually kind of a banner year for the golf course, and I love that. It's just hard to know what to make of these numbers from May 2022, because the year hadn't really geared up yet. And so I was just curious if it looks like they're going to make their 2022 budget.
Well, I mean, like for example, when I sent these, when I sent all these budget documents out to the departments, actually I sent them all of them, meaning like it's in one big workbook. And I told the department managers, take a look at these and let me know if there are any major changes that need to be made. And Brian was one who also reached out and said, asked about deadline for changes, and I received no requested changes to the budget. So like these numbers obviously are meeting the approval of the golf department.
Okay, great, good. No, that works out for them.
Brian, do you have a question?
Brian, do you have a question?
Oh.
You need to unmute.
Wow, I was going on and on and on. I was muted. I just wanted to say, the union contract, this is probably the only HOA in the country that we know of that has a union. And so it's increased the complexity of this project. And so I just wanted to give props to those of you who are working on this budget, because that does, definitely increases the complexity. And so it does increase the, obviously the some of the irregular, or issues that we're seeing maybe with FTEs. It has to do with the negotiated agreement. So.
Oh yeah.
Have you all read it? Have you guys, the finance committee, read the union agreement? Maybe they should read it. The collective bargaining agreement might be good to read it, just to kind of have that information.
I think that's a good idea. We can get that out.
I mean, the union thing does add a lot of complexity. Like, for example, we can't just move someone from one department or whatever, change the duties in a major way without getting approval, MOU from the union or pay rates or whatever. So it adds another layer of complexities. Perfect word for it.
Yeah, I think I'm sure it does add complexity and probably expense. And I think that's where we need to be really conscious of making sure we can continue to do what the board is dedicated to do, which is keep everything up, improve everything, and keep the employees. I am not sure how that actually gets done, but at this point, but hopefully it can be done. Hopefully we can make it all happen so we have a nice place to live for everybody.
And like, for example, when in 2021, like I said, when we did the 2022 budget for all the payroll and stuff, that number became a moving target because that CBA, that agreement, was not ratified until the very end of October of 2021. So the 2022 budget amounts versus the actuals for 2021 can be a little off kilter because of that. However, for the 2023 budget, we know precisely what those will be because it's a part of the CBA agreement for 2023. So these are actually really firm payroll numbers. minutes. Now we can go into the, any more questions on golf? Of course, we'll get to turf, then you'll have another time to talk about golf again if you wanted to. So now we're at the recreation center. Now, of course, this top line right here, these numbers, this is the rec special assessment coming in. And you'll see a huge decrease, 56.24% decrease. And of course, and that's, like I said, that's because unlike this year, the year before, where the rec special assessment, where that's charged to members all year long, now it's charged to members in 2023, January through May, and then it expires, it just drops off. So this is what you're looking at right here is 5 months worth of rec special assessments charged to the members, January through May. And of course, once again, the big increase that you'll see is payroll and benefits. And I guess I'll say it one more time just for the heck of it. But like, when you look at payroll and, I said payroll went up 3%, CBA mandates it, then you might, well, that's 14.53%. Well, that's because this number right here is looking back on the 2022 budget. This number, we didn't know what the CBA numbers would be when we had this, that budget was already off to the printers and everything, probably being mailed, probably people in people's mail. Yeah, that was literally like we got it ratified a couple of weeks before the AGM or so, a week or two. So that's why you'll see like what looks like a discrepancy between 2022 and 2023. When I say 3%, it looks like 14.5%. But like I said before, just rest assured these payroll numbers, these are solid, hard numbers because we have a collective bargaining agreement that these numbers are based on. Utilities for the rec center obviously are going up. Like I said, we kept it, we tried to keep it around 8% or more if it looked like it was warranted. And, we're looking back at either the budget or prior years, especially prior years to something like utilities and fuel. Other professional services, I guess I'll just hit on this number real quick. So this 5,000, we're reducing this to 0. Usually you would see this to be express workers, like temporary workers working in here. We do have a $15,000 hit in May, through May of 2022. And that basically that's a buyout agreement for the rec manager that we had, who didn't stay very long, but Morgan, did you have a question?
I do. Is there any money budgeted or planned to fix the sauna in the rec room?
So
is that covered anywhere?
That is budgeted for this year actually, but just we haven't gotten to the capital expenditures yet.
Okay, it's gonna be there. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah. But like kind of like with the admin department, we don't purposely budget to have temporary workers. We want to have a full staff department. So so that's why we're budgeting 0, because we will be fully staffed, meaning like we should not have to dip into this. And if we dip into this line item, what I mean is if an expense hits this line item, that also means you would see a corresponding, not exactly a corresponding decrease, but your salary line item would be less as well. So there is some trade-off if you do have to have a temporary worker. Now, before we go on to maintenance, Jean, did you have, or anyone?
You already answered the questions, thanks. I did, but you got them, so.
Okay, good. When I'm doing, see now I've learned, because when I get into the budgets, then I ask myself, what would Jean ask? And then I try to address it. Now
Joel,
for the
how many
main,
people can fit in that sauna?
um,
All right, move on, please.
Morgan probably knows.
I guess it depends on if they know each other or not.
Thanks for keeping it light.
Okay, now with the maintenance department, you know what the heck? Let's talk about FTEs again. Now that we're with the maintenance department, just to make sure that that it's hopefully as clear as possible. Yeah, I guess I'm probably. So basically, what's going on with payroll is that 0.84 FTEs that you saw up there in parks, that is in this number, or excuse me, no, it's not. It's not in this number. Sorry, but now I kind of wish I didn't bring that up because this could be more confusing. Because I mean, the problem is like I know how it's going on, but I do see how it can get confusing with the FTEs. But basically, what it was is, if you think of FTEs like with maintenance, let's just say we had 5 slotted FTEs in maintenance, and then we have 2 slotted FTEs in parks, and then let's pretend that that maintenance is fully staffed, and parks are fully staffed too. So we have five actual bodies working in maintenance, 2 actual bodies working in parks, and then 2 of those people in maintenance, for whatever reason, moved. They just moved on. So now we only have 3 people working in maintenance with 2 open FTE slots, and then we'll say that the parks people, or the 2 people in parks, the 2 actual people working at parks, decided, hey, I want to move to maintenance. I want to take those 2 open jobs. So then they moved to maintenance. Now we have 5 people working in maintenance, and 5 FTEs, 5 people working in maintenance. We have 2 FTEs in parks, but we don't have anyone working at parks. They're open positions. So then basically, the union agreement was, okay, well, let's just, you know what, the 5 people working in maintenance already will do the parks work as well. So those 2 open positions in parks, you can just not fill them, just eliminate them, so to speak. And so that's what creates now on the total FTE chart, that's how FTEs drop by 2 FTEs right there automatically. And then, so then in this case, if we have 5 FTEs in parks, 5 of those people are actually working there, then I'm coming along and I'm saying, okay, well then 2 of you will actually, I'm going to allocate your time to parks for 5 months for that special rec assessment. Since that rec assessment is going on, 2 of you will actually, your time will be solely dedicated to work on the parks maintenance. So that's why I'm taking, and then just mathematically 2 people for 5 months, that actually comes out to 0.84 FTEs for the 2 combined. So I'm pulling that away from parks and maintenance, and then just plugging it into the parks line item for the FTEs, 0.84. And then actually, maintenance actually dropped just a little bit more by 0.35, but that's because the mechanic's time, who works in turf, his time is actually charged to maintenance. So kind of like with Angie, where 0.25 of her time was charged to SEC, we're coming along and saying, well, actually, that's not right. We're going to take 0.25 away from ACC security and put it back into accounting. So then we did the same thing with the mechanic in maintenance. But that basically is a quick kind of accounting for, that's how to kind of reconcile, I guess you could say, between maintenance from last year to this year and parks. I mean, possibly that just made it more confusing, but hopefully not. Of course, to me, it's perfectly clear because I'm the one who did the chart, you know. So of course it would be, but I can totally see how, even when I was trying to explain this to like Sonia, and then apparently Sonia was trying to explain this to AJ, and both of them were like, what the hell is he talking about? You know, and so yeah, so Jessica's not alone in this, you know, in terms of the where it seems confusing. But so basically overall, how this all comes out into the wash by doing this is, it looks like maintenance, you know, their payroll costs has dropped by 2.21%. Well, some of this is in parks, so keep that in mind as well.
Hey, Joel, Gene has a question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Gene.
I can wait till you're done. Sorry, I just wanted you to know I was here and you're get done with maintenance. But, or I can start here. So yeah, the question is, I don't think you're actually confusing anybody. I think I think the challenge is 3 positions have dropped, period.
Right, yes.
And we didn't replace those 3 positions.
Yeah.
So there's going to be more work done by fewer people is what it ends up, because the work hasn't changed. There's still all that work out there. Work hasn't changed. So there's still all that work out there. So I'm just saying that's what and then so that's reflected also in your payroll, your salaries, because everywhere else on this sheet, your salaries have gone up because of the union. Everywhere else. This is the one place, one of the few places that the salaries actually went down because we've lost people, correct?
No, that's
Yeah.
not correct, actually. Those parks maintenance workers got an incredible increase in pay. We're paying our maintenance staff significantly higher pay rates than what they were set at last year. And this actually, we have a much more robust maintenance crew than what we didn't have a foreman in the past. We have a superintendent that's got many, many years of experience. He came from the city of Bellingham. Our foreman came from the city of Bellingham. These are experienced maintenance workers. And I think if you look around, you see that you're getting much a higher level. There's more training going on because we have experienced superintendent on site now. And again, the foreman is also incredibly experienced. The parks staff asked for this to occur. They want it to be in the maintenance department. Because as it was, we had 2 parks staff that were kind of out there with no supervision, and not enough support. What this does is allow that when there's certain jobs that need to occur at the parks and everything, that they're able to put the entire 5-man crew out there to work on those things and get the job done. So we're already seeing a big difference with the way it's structured, and they're much happier. The union's happier, and like I said, they're paid at a much higher pay rate.
Right. No, and I think that's great. But the pay went from 260 to 230. So there's some.
Well, it's because he moved the person he's talking about that was in there that was a mechanic. He actually belongs in golf and turf care. They moved him out of maintenance because he was being paid out of maintenance, but he did his work. He works for turf care and golf. He doesn't work for the maintenance department.
Oh, I guess I didn't see that up in that sheet. So I don't really want to get bogged down in that. I'm just saying. But I will make a point. So I'm glad that we have more people. I will tell you though, I personally this year have gone to the marina with a garbage bag and a picker up, and I've had 5 large bags of garbage that I personally have picked up, along with some really torn up tarps. So hopefully some of that'll start being addressed as we go forward. So yeah, but I hope with the more people, it'll make a difference.
I think the marina looks pretty awesome.
I picked up 5 large bags of garbage. It should look pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, we've redone the marina parking lot. There's been quite a bit of work that's been done out there just in the last few weeks. It looks pretty incredible. Potholes have been taken care of. It's been reconfigured. We've opened up a lot of additional dry slips that are getting filled. That's going to actually bring in more income to the marina. And the way that we restructured the marina with the parks and rec, we actually have more coverage at the marina than just one individual that works 5 days a week part-time. Instead, we have full-time staff there at all hours, 7 days a week. So.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Joel, do you want the rest of my questions, or do you want to wait till you're done with maintenance?
Sure, you can ask your question.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Hopefully other people are raising their hands. So, sorry, Jessica's got a question. Here, let me go through mine and then.
So I just want to go back to Sonia, what you just said.
Oh, okay.
We eliminated that marina position. And now you're saying there is someone down there?
Well,
no, yeah, they are. They work out of the recreation department. We have member services staff that they rotate out 2 at a time. So we always have somebody at, I think it's, Dan, what are their hours? Like 10 or 11 to 6 or 7 p.m. 7 days a week.
Yeah,
And so there's
I believe
always two.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
11 to 7.
Okay. And that's every day. And then if they need additional support, they're able to call over to the rec center and pull additional support over. So it's been working really well. Where in the past there was just the one individual who worked 5 days a week, kind of part time. So this is given again support to the marina every day.
Gene, if you're picking up 5 bags of trash, I think we need to do a better job of communicating to our neighbors not to have big summer blowouts down there.
Hey, I've never had a
Leaving the
summer
garbage.
blowout down there, so I'm fine if you guys, I don't have a boat. I'm happy the marina's there. I want to support it, but I don't have a boat. I live, I just like, and I'm actually going to other places and picking up garbage too. I have the time to do it, but I find it disappointing that I find so much garbage. So I'm not down there. I don't have a boat. So
No, I'm
I'm
just
just down
saying,
there
I
to clean
mean,
it up.
that has nothing to do with you having a boat. I don't know where you got that from. I'm just saying that we need to inform our neighbors, like, hey, pick up after yourselves. We don't want to have to hire a full-time maintenance employee to go down there and pick trash up every day.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? So in an ideal world, unfortunately, that's part of what they're probably going to have to do. I'd like people to clean out the showers every day too, and they don't. So anyway, so can we go all back to maintenance to you want me to go ahead with maintenance, Joel?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so 6447.1 weather response. Let's see.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I mean, weather is changing these days. So before we had 33,000, 19,000. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think any of us do, but I'm just, again, this is just a note that I do with the weather changing as it is that really going to be enough money to be allocated to weather response? And that's for you guys to decide. I would put more in there because of what's happening around. And then 664 or 6447, that's the same comment, is that it seems a little underfunded to me, especially with what goes on with the weather around here these days, around the world, actually. So I just hope that we don't need more money if we should call if we need it. I hopefully have it if we do need it, actually.
Hey, Gene, do you have any specifics on how much you would raise that to?
Do I have any specific? Well, let me think about it. I didn't know I was going to be asked. That wasn't something that was there, but I'd be happy to get back to you about that. I'll think about it. I think at least, what did we spend last year? Actually, last year, 22. I'd probably spend it I'd probably increase it at 20 or more. So I just,
so a lot of that is, a lot of the weather response is also being covered. Like we have some additional funding in capital that fast response for drainage issues and that type of thing. And in another location, there's snow response that actually balances out a lot of this. So you'll see it in another location.
Yeah, my concern with is we keep pulling money that we don't allocate enough to this budget from our reserves. The reserves are going to continue to go down. And what we have really in reserves, really for a community this size, isn't that much. I know that's what we have, and that's what we have to work with. But I do worry if you are going to depend on reserves to fill your budget, then you could end up with not much left in your reserves.
Well, we're not depleting the reserves, Gene. That's not happening.
No, so, I'm not just saying. I just said it could happen. I understand that. I'm just saying it could happen if this doesn't if not enough is budgeted. That's all.
Right. I'm just pointing out that there's other locations. This weather response is, it's in several different spots, including like for snow response. Yeah. And then we have,
like even in here, snow removal services for maintenance. So we bumped that up $5,000.
And then 6647, again, weather response, like the same comment, you've got 54, 24, 42, and then 25. So again, it's just sort of the same comment. So I just never know where that weather's going to hit these days.
Yeah, these line items, like this kind of comes up every budget season in terms of, what we try to do is at least budget for like a couple good responses, like snow hits. So, and like, for example, also beefing up the snow removal services from 15 to 20,000 down here for like, so this would be the baby plow guy, the contract and professional services.
Right, yeah, 70,000 that 1 year, that's crazy. So then,
Well, that was because we had an inexperienced maintenance
Yeah, this was a really,
supervisor.
this one was unusual. Like if you go back and look at the other years, you know, it's 16 basically rounded. So
Yeah, we
So-
had to depend heavily on the outside
Yeah.
vendor to take care of snow removal. That won't happen again. That's why we
Yeah.
feel confident with doing it like this.
so then Joel, on 6796, other R&M, what is that? 6796. Other R&M.
Other repair and maintenance.
Right, so we don't expect that we're gonna need any other repair and maintenance, or we've had
You know, we put it in a
88,
Oh,
different.
20,
you know what? Let me
17.
tell you, this line
32.
item right here becomes, this, like, for example, when a capital project unfortunately runs over,
Uh-huh,
this is where this becomes unfortunately where it gets hit, where it gets dumped to is going
okay,
to be in this 6796 line item. So
okay,
usually, like, especially in this year, and which was obviously 2019, like that big amount was for potholes and things like that, that, you know, that they, so the thing is, if they have a capital project and if they run over, obviously I don't allow the manager to just keep hitting a capital project code. Then it's kind of like, well, too bad for you. Unless you get a change order, now it's going to go to your maintenance department budget, you know? So
right,
that's what's
Hey.
leading into these numbers.
right. 88 or 32 would be quite a hit to a maintenance budget. Yeah. So anyway, just was curious why there wasn't something there, but it sounds like you're pretty confident with the
Yeah.
numbers. So, all right. That's all I had for maintenance.
Did Jessica, did you have, I think I saw your hand up before. Did you have a question?
I know you answered it. So,
Oh, okay, good. All right. Now we did beef up this one, other professional services right here, the 7095. Basically we beat that up, you know, to 15,686 for vacuum street sweepings, you know, anticipating vacuum street sweepings type work. We're contracted, obviously vendor to do that. So that's why you'll see an increase for there. Obviously, now we did talk about snow removal services already. And that basically kind of rounds out maintenance. I was going to kind of skip the parks, but maybe we won't do that. We'll just go sequentially to marina. So okay, so you will see that we did budget for some increases to marina fees. Actually, how we did this is first we basically looked at, you know, like taking the 2021 wet slips and bumping that up about that income up about 20% essentially. And then bumping up these marina dry slip incomes, marina wet dry combo incomes by another 10%. And of course, now it comes out to about an average of 8.2%, you know, for those three line items. Of course, that doesn't mean that marina fees, you know, like will go up 8.2%, but like, for example, there's some things that, you know, like that they've identified down there at the marina, like for example, like slips and docks that are open that could be filled, you know, that could also become a part of more increased revenue as well. So, you know, so it could be a combination of maybe a small fee increase or just getting a better handle on filling these open slips faster to bring in more revenue. So it's going to be a combination of those two. One or the other, both. Well, I mean, we'll get a handle on the open slips anyways. Payroll and benefits, you'll see this is the, we went to zero. or meaning like now it's at 0 because we have Gene who goes down there and as volunteer, so we don't need that salary anymore. So, which means now I get to go back to the FTE chart and bump that up 1. So now we're just down 2 FTEs for the year. No, but this is that one slot that we talked about before, way back to the FTE chart where the marina, where that position is just won't be filled because the rec center is filling in for that marina work. Utilities, same thing, just an increase of basically it's, we're looking back on prior year actuals and trying to build in at least 8% or more depending on the department. And other professional services, same thing for this. Obviously, we're going to just put that to 0. This has been used obviously like in the past to, but actually, well, not too much, but I mean, but in the past, like paying temporary workers through Express, so on and so forth, it'll be the rec center that will be providing the work down at the marina. So we won't need to budget for that in 7095 other professional services. Did anyone have any questions about the marina at all?
I think you answered it, but so you're expecting an increase because of there's new dry dock or new wet dry dock that's going to be leased out. Is that correct?
Yeah, like, one thing is we'll have slips and then people will sign up for it and then they don't take it. And then, so then it goes, because we also have a pretty sizable wait list, I guess, on all these slips. So, but then there's this delay of, getting, whether it's, giving people a little too much time to like claim they're the next one on the list, whether we tighten that up a bit in terms of how much time you have to come in and claim an open slip. But some of this revenue could be made up just by fully getting everything rented out, like in those slips. And then also as well, like with a small increase as well, if that needs to be done, because our slips are quite a bit cheaper than other slips. Like people have looked into it, like Rich has looked into it, the ops manager, but apparently, so the slips are cheaper at our marina, obviously, than at other marinas that you'll see around. But it's, so it would probably be a combination of those two things.
Okay, and the dock that was taken down shouldn't have any effect on being able to rent out these slips?
I wouldn't think
No,
so,
it
no,
doesn't
but since
have
that was
any.
just a daily launch dock.
Okay, again, I don't know that much about the marina. I just know, okay.
So there's actually a open slip that we are keeping open for people to be able to load. So they still have access to a dock if they need that. So there's a loading and unloading open slip for anybody that needs a wet slip to park in as they load.
Okay, all right, thank you.
This will move on to administration. Okay, so the big line item with this one will be obviously sorry, I wanted to go to the payroll benefits. So the payroll benefits, and this is just like current pay rates right now, bumped up 3% as according to the collective bargaining agreement. Admin office obviously is made up of the GM, ops manager, and the John IT and the 2 admin staff. Deb, who's in one of the full-time slots as well, Deb Corbett. Utilities, same thing. So we increase utilities based off of historical numbers here. Any questions on the administrative department?
I'm good. I'm actually good, I think, for a little while here, so.
Okay. Now we're into the Parks Department, so this is where, this is where it gets a little interesting again. So now we're coming back to the FTE thing between maintenance and parks. And so we might as well just go right down to, which is really the only big change, the total payroll and benefits. Okay, so you'll see that the parks payroll and benefits went down 51.5%. Obviously, that's because we had 2 people being charged to this. 2 slots, 2 FTEs, 2 people, two bodies being charged to this, and those two people now moved to the maintenance department, and meaning not increasing the maintenance FTE, but moving to 2 open slots in the maintenance department. But this is where I'm signifying right here that because of the rec special assessments, if people are paying the rec special assessment, that we need to have maintenance needs to allocate 2 of those people, 2 of these workers, actually the people that went from parks to maintenance, but 2 of those people their time will be allocated and dedicated to the parks department, for maintenance parks department, January through May, as though they're, like spending all their time there. So, and that's their pay basically. So that pay, if it wasn't for that, this pay would be back into maintenance, is where it would show up in maintenance actually. Meaning, so like maintenance would actually show an increase, with the exception of like moving the mechanics time 0.35 FTEs and the mechanics time from just reallocating it, taking it away from maintenance and then putting it back into turf. It's just the same as like for the collections person that works in accounting, 0.25, basically a quarter of her time was charged to ACC security for compliance. And then we just diverted that fully to accounting, is what we did last year. Which has unfortunately it has like a corresponding effect both in payroll and on that FTE chart, which can look, it can lead to some confusion.
I think it's important to note too, I mean, again, like Joel was saying, this is because of the special assessment. And these funds were allocated a specific way because of that special assessment rather than in the operational budget. This will be the last time that you'll see the budget look like that. And moving forward, these expenses will be where they belong. Like we're not going to have to have these requirements to take funds and spend them a certain way. After May, they'll go into the correct department where they're supposed to be. And so the next year's budget, it'll look more like an operational budget should. You won't see these, percentages that come from one section or another section to cover that special assessment.
Yeah, and then those like the FTEs will be very comparable, like from year to year. Brian?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's really wonderful that that we're kind of out from under that special assessment, right? I mean, pools should be paid for in the budget, right? It doesn't make sense to have a special assessment for the pools. So yeah, anyway.
Well, it's true because I don't think people realize it. The board does make the budget, and it could have been a different board that just decided that, hey, we're not going to pay for this. We're not going to budget for that. That's where it was 5 years ago. When there was $0 budgeted for recreation 5 years ago. And that's actually what triggered the special assessment. The outrage should have been, why isn't management budgeting correctly? That should have been in operations. People's jobs shouldn't depend on a special assessment. That our pools shouldn't depend on a special assessment. Our parks maintenance shouldn't depend on a special assessment. Those should be our day-to-day operational expenses. They should always be budgeted like that. And we should have consistently delivered amenities. And the only way that we can do that is to put that money into this operational budget every year.
I mean, that's something the survey showed the pools are vitally important for this community. So it's great to see it in the budget.
And I guess I should have mentioned way at the beginning. It's on the second page, but talking about the special assessment and like fees. So we have no planned increase to the pools and the rec center throughout the rest of 2023. So people don't have to worry about, oh, the special assessment is going away, so now we're going to charge all these increased fees, during 2023. for the rec center and the pools. In fact, speaking of pools, I guess we can just move on now to the pool budget. I mean, the only real increases, I mean, the big increases, well, it's not even a big increase, but just pulling in the budget, the pool income in line with actuals. They're not huge increases. Payroll and benefits, same thing, like all these go up as according to the CBA, just like any other department. There aren't no medical benefits in pools since these are all temporary type positions. So that's why you don't see like medical benefit expense here.
Yeah, I just want to also give a big shout out to Ethan and Alex over there with the pools, because we actually have a wait list for people that are applying that want to be lifeguards with Sudden Valley. We set up a new program this year where we actually pay for their licenses, where in the past they had to be licensed before they were hired, but we pay for that. We give them the training. And but we have a wait list where Arnie Hanna actually has empty positions that they can't fill, and but they've managed to build up a nice ongoing relationship with other teenagers in the community that want to stay here and work here. And so it's been really exciting to see how that's just grown so well this year. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, the only other notable line item on pools will be this pool management, where you see this going from 13,000 to 35,000. And this is literally just to reflect the reality of what this pool management contract will cost, like in 2023. So this wasn't, it didn't just arbitrarily increase that number. That was based off of like real contract type costs of what we're paying out, what we anticipate to pay out on pool management in 2023. Did anyone else have any other questions on pools? Good thing for the operating budget, we're only down to just two last departments.
You're doing a great job, Joel.
Oh, thank you. Okay, ACC security, obviously hazardous tree removal has been expensive catching up on all these hazardous trees, but since I believe they feel that they're catching up on the backlog of trees, so what we've done is we've bumped up this line item from 60,000 to 75,000 for 2023. And as you can see, of course, of the past years, how much was this? So 2018, about 21,600, 2019, 38,000, 2020, close to 50,000, then it jumps to 100,000, now it's 130,000. So once we're over the hump with this catching up the backlog, and we feel like it's started to settle down to 75,000 in 2023. Payroll and medical benefits, exact same thing with this, just took the rate and just bumped it up 3%, is according to the CBA, with the medical benefits as well. And
Sandy, Joel, hold on. So the professional security services, Sandy, that's Pacific Security that handles that's our security guards that are up there at 7097. That's right, where you see that dollar amount.
And how many physical beings is that at any one point in time?
Well, it's 24/7. There's at least one person on at all times, and then there's some overlap. And then on holidays, anytime we anticipate like the 4th of July weekend and that type of thing, New Year's, we always have additional staff, additional security. but at any time there's at least one, and then there's periods of time, where they overlap, I think, an hour and a half on each shift where they hand off also. But they let us know if they're encountering any issues and if we need to bring anybody additional in.
But the 2023 budget looks like it's going down from 20,000 to 11,500. That's 6,440.
No, that's 7097 right at the top where it goes
Yeah.
professional security services.
Okay.
It's actually going up to
Okay.
206,000.
Okay, thank you. I just, I think it needs to address everyone's concerns about what's perceived to be happening right now. Thank you.
Yeah. Obviously vehicle fuel, this, we tried to bump that up about 15% or so, and you'll see this one is precisely at 15%. Now, ACC consultant down here, we're budgeting for 10,000 versus 50,000 because this is a role that this position would be doing, which we would pay salary out for, like what the prior building planner guy did. So so that's why you'll see a decrease of 50,000 to 10,000 here. We did build in 10,000 just in case, there's some overlap or a gap in service.
So what were you saying with that? Where is that position been moved to?
Say that again.
Where did the ACC consult? I mean, before it's been 77, 7,000, 70, 70,000,
It's still
71,000,
there.
77,000.
Yeah.
Where is it though? I don't, it just says it's 10,000.
Yeah, so we're budgeting 10,000 because the work that this ACC consultant would do
Yeah.
is that's what this position will do, meaning the salary costs of paying this individual.
Who is
working
this
for us.
individual? So what is this individual? How much, sorry, I didn't, so what is that?
He's an
individual do?
ACC consultant that
Yeah.
Okay,
works with
okay.
the builders and the contractors
Okay.
and helps set up, the
Okay.
inspections up to the home sites and that type
Okay.
of thing, or he'll go out if there's a complaint regarding, somebody breaking some type of policy. And
Okay.
so the additional 10,000, like Joel was saying, is that's a consulting position. And so we built in the additional money because we'd like to bring that in-house. And so we need to build in additional funds to bring somebody on full-time in that position.
So that person's not here yet.
No, we have.
Because we needed to contact that person a couple times, so
No,
I'm just
oh, no,
wondering.
that person, they're the person you're talking about, yes, they are employed here. He's a
Oh.
consultant, it's Joel Carter. If
Okay.
you watch any of the ACC meetings, sometimes you'll see him in there.
Okay.
And,
all right.
yeah.
So is he going to be the person then that you hire? Or is it
No,
somebody else?
he's a consultant. He doesn't want to come on full-time,
Okay.
but he,
So
yeah.
it'll be somebody else. Okay, great. All right, thanks.
Hey, Jacob, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm in Texas, so I'm 2 hours ahead of y'all. I'm fading pretty quick. So I just was hoping I could add a quick comment and excuse myself and get to bed because I'm feeling pretty old right now. You, the board, invited your finance committee to this meeting to learn more about a very complex document that we got last week and to ask some clarifying questions. So I thank you, Joel and Sonia and Dan and others for shifting your tone early on in this meeting from one of frustration and defensiveness to one that really encouraged us to do what we're charged with doing as a committee. It's been 2 months since you've engaged us. And some of us still have questions about decisions that were made back in May. So I really just implore you to continue utilizing the expertise of Jean and Jessica and Callie and others at our meeting next week. I have one concern about how the dues are presented in the executive summary at the beginning of this proposal. Especially, did I understand correctly that this document, I'm sorry, not the one that you're sharing right now, but the one that you had previously open, Joel, is that publicly posted to the website right now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you're talking about this document?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
that's the
yeah,
one.
this is on the website. And,
So,
oh, yeah, you got it in your email too.
yes, we did. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I'm just asking you to consider pulling it down until we can finish this conversation next week. It sounds to me like there's going to be things that aren't resolved at the end of tonight. I just wanted to ask that you consider doing that before anything finalized is published. I have something that
So
I would like to.
why would we pull, this is a budget, it literally says budget draft proposal. So why would we pull that down and not share that with the community members?
With the possibility that it could mislead the public, but if it says draft proposal on it, I would hope I probably wouldn't have caught that. Obviously, I didn't, and so I just wouldn't want anybody else to be misled.
Yeah, this is actually how the budget is done every year, and it's generally posted, and the membership follows along, and sometimes there's changes, sometimes there's not changes. There's, some input by the board, by the finance committee, those changes. I mean, like last year we made changes with the hazard tree,
Okay.
the dollar amounts, and like I said, and then we'll have to go back. The final budget will go up, and the board will then vote on that and that's what goes on to and there's a town hall. The other thing that we do is that once we work through this piece of it, we'll have a town hall and actually do the budget presentation of the budget, where we've concluded that this is what the budget's going to look like, and introduce that to the membership.
And you'll indicate what changes have been made, so anyone
Yes.
who okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, just consider this like the agenda packet, like for board meetings, we post the stuff before decisions are made.
That's helpful. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you for that,
Yeah,
AJ,
thanks.
because I wanted to clarify that also. We don't post these types. Well, in the past, we have not posted these types of documents to the website. They have been part of the agenda packets, obviously, as we go through finance meetings or board meetings or whatever. And I understand your concern, because we want to make sure that the process is followed correctly and the right input is done before it's actually posted to the public. So thanks.
Well, it's becoming one of those things where, you kind of, seems to be a lose-lose situation no matter what we do. So, it was specifically requested by several members that this be up so that they could follow along with the process. I did go back and look to see what had happened in the past, and this was posted, except for last year when we didn't do it. But previously, this was posted, and then you would see the updates to the draft as the finance committee and the board met again over like one or two more meetings. And so I felt pretty comfortable with doing that, but I felt like if we didn't post it, we'd be accused of somehow keeping a secret and not wanting to share something. And, we want to be really clear that that's not what we're doing here at all. This is a really good budget. It's balanced. There's been a lot of thought and work put into it. And so, I feel very comfortable and confident with putting it out there. And it's not to say that there won't be additional changes, but I think hopefully most of our members understand that it's what a draft budget is,
So just so last year, I mean, this is great. Last year, the reason why there wasn't a confusion about being a draft was written right across the middle of each page. I think watermark or something. This does say draft, absolutely, but I think you really couldn't miss it last year because of the boldness of it across the middle of the page.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate Jacob, which I don't know if he jumped off already. Oh, no, you're there, sorry. And so I appreciate the input. We can certainly put a big draft letter across this. And again, the Finance Committee will meet next Wednesday, because like I said, we just looked like we weren't going to have a quorum for tomorrow. Plus, I think everybody needs a little time to digest everything. And then we'll meet August 3rd. Hopefully, most of the board will be there too. And then we can revisit all of it. And meanwhile, we'll just kind of summing it up, because I know you want to go, Jacob, but we'll also summarize that FTE, those documents that kind of help explain that a little bit better too for everybody.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Hi, Jacob.
Good, Jacob.
Okay, so now we'll move on to turf care. Which is good, because that's the last operating department. And same thing for this. I mean, the most notable changes will be same kind of drill, total payroll and benefits. This went up. Basically, so this is maybe a couple little changes would be, like I said before, the turf care manager in 2022, this year, turf care manager's time was budgeted 0.85% of his time was budgeted turf. Then the other 15% of his time was budgeted to be in parks. You know, we're not doing that since the turf care manager is spending all his time in turf care for 2023. So 0.15 FTEs from parks has been now shifted back to turf care. And of course, I've mentioned this already about the mechanic who had 0.35 FTEs, meaning 35% of his time budgeted in maintenance, since he spends mostly all of his time in turf care. That 35% of his time has been shifted away from maintenance back to turf care. So it's a combination of those and a general increase of what the CBA calls for, a 3% increase in payroll in medical benefits gives you this bottom line increase. So it's very formulaic. So now utilities, basically we did a look back in this case, back to the prior years, not just what we budgeted in 2022, but in prior years, since it's more appropriate to do that. So compared to the prior years, we bumped it up so actually budget from 2022 to 2023, yes, it appears that it's going down, but looking back at actuals from prior years, we're making sure that we have like approximately 8% or so at least built into that from the actuals. And same thing for vehicle fuel as well. So looking back on like actuals, making sure we build in at least around a 15% or so increase from prior year actuals. And I would say that those would be the big kind of highlights on turf care. And like I said before, on those financial statements, you'll see the turf care always runs negative because this is a cost center. There are no revenues that come into turf care. So if you wanted to know how much golf was in a particular month, if you're just looking at it like this from the budget draft, then you would take the bottom line from golf and then subtract off the expenses here from turf care. And that's what gives you the budgeted like net income for golf of approximately $7,000.
Now I'm just going to jump in there real quick, Joel,
sure,
for a second. But so one of the things that we had hoped to do, but there's obviously been a lot going on, and then with the way everything kind of we got thrown for a loop here with COVID and delaying a lot of our budgeting. But one of the things that we want to work on this year is that we need to reevaluate how golf and turf care are financially structured. It's been like this for a very long time, and it's time to reevaluate that and be sure that it's working correctly for us and for this association. that it's a benefit and, you know, in favor of the membership. One of the things that, you know, the members do want to walk on that cart path. Brian has expressed the fact that for every day that he opens it up, he loses $15,000. That's something that we need to look at and evaluate and see if that's actually accurate. And then do we want to offset that in some kind of way and make sure that we open the course up a little more often to membership, and how we make those adjustments. So that's something that, you know, we just we're not going to deal with that in this particular budget cycle, but it is definitely something that we need to deal with this year and evaluate. The other thing is Brian's expressed the fact that he's getting ready to retire. So we need to be looking at what's going to happen to that course. How is it going to be managed? So there's a lot of things for us to be considering this year when it comes to the golf course, our financial relationship to it, and again, how it's structured within the community. So that's something that over the next few months that we'll probably put a task force in place to spend a little more time, you know, drilling down on that. Thank you, Joel.
I thought that was an interesting comment, Sonia. So I just remember there's a large part of the community. Yes, I play golf. There's a large part of the community that does appreciate the golf here. I don't have a boat, but I'm happy to support the boating. I don't live in other gates, but I want their streets to be good and solid. I don't have kids, but I want to make sure we have a good playground for them all over the place. I don't have kids, but I hope that ice barn could be turned into some sort of arena for them to be able to play and be safe. So I think we need to make sure we are taking into consideration the entire community when we're looking at the golf and the marina and the playgrounds and the parks, because it's important. I don't play tennis, but I see on the capital plan you've got
I'm not saying taking anything away from golf. What I'm saying is,
Sonia, you're interrupting me. So
you're implying something I didn't imply.
Can I finish and then you can respond?
Sure.
It wasn't implied, but it's almost in it was implied, even though it wasn't said. So I think that there is, I think the members should be able to enjoy the golf club also. Brian is a golf pro. There are a lot of those guys that can tell me, you just got a GM to run this facility. It's not that hard to get a good golf pro to run the golf course. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I think it sounds like you're starting to make this a focus of attention, which means it's a bigger deal that's going to be focused on. And so I just think the whole community needs to be able to have input on it and not just one voice from one side.
Well, I literally said that we would be putting a task force together to be looking at that and about looking at the financial structure of golf within the community. I will say that I'm aware that the golf club is rewriting their bylaws without input from the board or the community, and which I find actually kind of strange, but you know, there are a lot of things going on with the course that we are not fully informed of. And I think it's really important for us to know, are we losing revenue that we as a membership should be gaining? And then again, like I said, if he's going to be retiring, this is the time to look at, how is this structured? What are we going to do? Is it time for us to consider a professional management golf corporation to come in and manage that course? This is looking out for the long-term success of the community and the golf course and the club. I wasn't talking about taking anything away from it. I literally, the only thing I talked about was community members do want to use the cart path. And right now, it wasn't even opened up this year. It finally got opened up one night a week on a Sunday night because he says that he loses too much revenue. And so that's something we need to consider. If that's the case, how are we offsetting that? If our members want to utilize those cart paths more often, then we need to determine how are we offsetting that loss for golf. That wasn't a negative thing. It's actually a positive thing that we need to look at as a whole, as a community.
So just to read the bylaws had no, I'm happy to send them to you. There's nothing that changes anything. They were last changed in 1992, really changed in 1992. And they talk about so many things that don't even occur. We don't give certificates. There are a number of things that they had, positions that don't even exist. And what it is just cleaning up the bylaws from 1992 to make them current. There's no money that's being changed. There's no way that things are getting paid. That's not even mentioned. Money's not even mentioned being changed or dealing with the board differently. There's none of that at all. And I'm happy to share that with you, Sonia, about the bylaws. There's not affecting Sudden Valley change at all. It's just updating the language so that it's current. That's all it's doing.
Well, that's awesome. So it shouldn't be a problem for us to spend a little time actually having a better understanding of how golf is structured right now and if we need to do something different with it.
I'm happy to meet with you. I'm the club president, so I'm happy to meet with you.
Okay, awesome.
Jessica, did you have a question?
I just had a couple of comments. And I was working primarily from the all department summary to provide some context here. I still have, even after the questions have been answered, some concern about whether or not the new building is adequately accounted for in this budget. I'm basing that on the utilities section where there's virtually no change. And I know throughout this presentation, Joel has very kindly pointed out that there have been some increases done for utilities, which is reasonable. But overall, there's a $26 increase. And I can't imagine that that building is going to only cost $26 in utilities. So I'm asking that that be looked at again. The other concern that I had was expenses overall only increased 3%, and we know that inflation is around 9%. So I'd just like us to take another look at some of the expenses to make sure they are also adequately accounted for. I know that everyone here is very appreciative of the fact that the budget is balanced. And I actually, that actually concerns me because I worry that that means the budget is not realistic. I prefer to see a budget that is very realistic in terms of expenses and revenues. And I would expect that at the bottom of that realistic budget, there would be either a surplus or a deficit, even if it's quite small. So I'm curious, how is the budget balanced?
Well, I think it's a very realistic budget, and it was balanced last year as well. And if you take a look, we worked from historical numbers. I'm not exactly sure where you're seeing the $25 increase for the 1850 property, but we calculated, I believe, 300, and we were using actual real utility expenses that Dave got that were documented for that building, which I think ended up being about 400 a month. And
go to page 5. They're not numbered, but it's the one that starts out with CCNR/mandates, and there's a utility section there. And the utilities in 2022 was 193,610. And in the 2023 budget, it's 193,627. And I'm just asking that you take another look at it because it seems odd that it would be going down everywhere. And then we're adding several $1,000s, at least I assume, for utilities in that new building. So that was something I wanted to comment and ask about. And then interest expense on the new loan. I did not see that, or.
That's in the capital. We
Right.
haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, so my question, I get that. So my question about that is, are those expenses being paid out of the capital reserves, or are they coming out of operation cash?
Capital.
Yeah, they're being paid out of capital. There's a board, that was a board motion to pay that out of capital.
Okay. And so what is the new rate, the rate on the new loan?
So why don't we
4.25%.
hold that one? Yeah, 4.7, 4.25.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, if we want to.
The old rate was 4.62%, meaning the old SURF loan that part of this loan paid off that SURF loan, refinance you did.
Yeah, we were able to refi
The last comment I had was, if I heard Joel right earlier in the meeting, that management was involved in this process by emailing them a draft budget, and if nobody heard back, then it was assumed that that they were in approval of it. I don't necessarily feel that that's a good process.
They have complete documentation for their department, including the historical budget documents. That's sent out to them ahead of time, and it's reviewed with them. And the other thing is that they inventory their fixed assets. That's something that they reported back, like what do they still have, what don't they have. There's a lot more to the process. The reserve specialist came out, met with each of the department heads, spent a day with each of them to review their departments, the on-site, what they needed, et cetera. Looking at any new reports that have come out, for repairs or needs, like we haven't gotten to capital yet, but you'll see that there's over $100,000 allocated for the turf building because it needs additional repairs and everything. And so it's not as simple as just this was sent out. What he's saying is, after we built it, based on those reports and all of the time spent, like with the project manager, with the department heads, with the reserve specialist, and with the information that those department managers provided, once we put it all together, then it was sent back out to them for their input. And if they had any input, then that would be, either they go, yes, I don't, which we did have a couple of items that needed to be changed, like with maintenance. But what he's saying is, like, golf didn't have anything else to change. He was satisfied with the end result after we worked. He was involved in the process, though.
And I was specifically talking about golf at that point. Meaning so Brian, Brian's actually the most, he's really wanting his numbers every single month. So he gets numbers every single month for his department. He really tracks his departments closely. So, meaning throughout the year, he gets all his numbers. Oh yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And then I think my last question at this point is, and forgive me since this didn't come through the finance committee, the subcontract agreement we have with the company that's handling the refund of the transfer fees.
Yes.
My assumption is that they're charging us something for that.
Yes.
And is that budgeted in capital also?
If that's budgeted out of UDR. So this is an operating budget and the capital budget. So meaning UDR is not taken into account. UDR is kind of like, in a weird sort of way, kind of like accounted for and budgeted in real time all the time.
No, I'm familiar with UDR. I was working there when it was created. So yeah. So it's not in the operational budget.
No.
So it's not in the operational budget, but the cash is coming out of UDR.
That's correct.
And when those fees are paid out of UDR, where are they going to be expensed?
To UDR. There's a separate, meaning like in those financial statements that you get every single month, there's a UDR section.
Actually a UDR department kind of things?
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when will we see that budget?
No, we don't give a UDR budget, meaning like The UDR
It
budget is like,
shows every month in the income statement.
yeah.
So, all right, well, then I'll just ask the question, how much are the fees?
How much for what?
How much is the contract for Epic?
Oh, like off the top of my, I mean, I know the approximate amount off the top of my head. It's like approximately 40 to 45,000 right in that range, 42, 43,000, some right in there.
Okay. And I, having not seen the capital stuff in advance, and I have to work early tomorrow, I am afraid I'm going to have to move the meeting at this point. But I thank everyone for their time, and Joel for your answers, and Sonia for your comments. It's been very helpful.
Oh, sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jessica. Morgan, do you have a question?
I did have one question. It was about the golf. When you talk about revisiting the golf, I'm so excited to hear that, because I think that one thing that needs to happen is a team of people need to work on marketing the course. I mean, if we have the course and it's there, it needs to be marketed better so that we have the course is used as much as possible. And I think that's a weakness that we've had. So I would just say that when you're doing that, I think it'd be great if people, came up with ideas and ways to get people using the course. If it's tiered membership or, I hear the ads on the radio about family night at some courses, which are inexpensive, but obviously the idea being that people would come, use the course, love it, and then come back later. Do we need to look at something like that? Is there anything we can do to get people out there using the course to minimize our losses would be fantastic.
No, I think that's a great idea. One of the things when we did the community survey is it was really apparent that we needed to change the community's relationship with golf. It is it is a centerpiece, and it's beautiful. And so, that's one of the reasons for me, I bring up about, I don't play golf, but I walk, and, bring up the car paths, because it's like the relationship of the membership with that area does need to change. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with that there needs to be more involvement from the community with the course. So, to change the relationship.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. I agree with you. Thank you.
So, Joel, do you want to move on to the?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And Jessica also pointed out, and I'll just say before we move on from the operating budget, but at the end of turf care, which is handy as it goes into the all department summary. So if you ever wanted to know, oh, geez, how much, I'll just pick a GL, how much does the whole department, how much does the whole organization, what's the total expense on general administrative? It's, well, this is a bad one. This is zero. But like office supplies, what are we paying office supplies for the whole organization? It's basically, it's taking all the department income statements and it's adding them all together. It's summarizing. So like every single GL is summarized together in this all department summary, which is handy. So, so if you ever see a GL that repeats, something like other professional services or utilities expense, that's a perfect one. Or payroll, like what's the total payroll for the whole organization? Just go to the all department summary. It's adding up every single one of these GLs on every single department together. And you'll have a total now of the whole organization. And you can do that for anything, utilities, maintenance, payroll, fuel, whatever. So and that's helpful, to look at that. And obviously, like down here, total department summary expenses. There's, matter of fact, at the very beginning of the document, when it said there are $3,969,961 in revenues, that balances out, the total expenses. That's why they have 0. Then if I were to scroll up here just real quick for the heck of it, here's our total income. That equals the total expenses, which means it's a balanced budget, which is obviously what we're going for. Now, in terms of like just a quick side note with budgets, like we try to forecast this as well as possible. Will it come in exactly like that? Well, probably not. But, the goal is to get it as close as possible to be a good guide going into the next year. Some revenues will come in more than we budgeted. Some expenses could come in more, but usually in the end, the goal is, for it to balance out. And like you can see at the end of this all department summary, you can see like basically right here, here's the 2018, the whole organization operationally wise had a $904 net loss. I mean, that's great. That's close enough. 2019, $140,825 net income. 2020, we had a net loss. 2021, $515,474. And the board, said to move $500,000 of that into capital to help pay for that 1850 Lake Whatcom Boulevard building.
So I know a lot of people are getting tired. It's getting late. So what we could do is just, Joel can just go quickly through the capital just to help everybody understand how it's laid out.
Yeah.
And then what we could do is then just delve into that a little bit heavier next week. And then also if you guys have questions or concerns or comments, you can email them to us too, before the next meeting so that we can kind of be prepared for whatever additional information you might need. So does that sound good? You just want to kind of go through this quickly, and then we can dig in a little bit better next week.
Well, the good thing is capital usually goes
a
lot quicker than operations anyways.
Okay.
Of course, I'm going to have some questions. So I was hoping we could do this next week. I think that's what we did last year. We split it into 2 meetings that way, but however you guys want to do this.
Just so folks know, I'm going to switch computers because this one is on its battery and it tells me it's about to shut down. So I'll be right back.
Okay. We'll just move on with capital. I'm going to freeze this row. So when I scroll up, we'll be able to see 2022 and all that stuff. But basically, I mean, it's fairly straightforward with capital. Obviously, these first 2 columns, 2022, 2023, we have a January 1 carryover, 1.253 million. And how I get to that number is I take on the financial statements, I take the most current statements that we have, the ending reserve balance, and then I start with that, and then I start subtracting away stuff that reserve balance doesn't quite know about, meaning like projects that the board has approved that the balance that isn't really reflected in that starting January 1 carryover. But the bottom line is the January 1 carryover that's an accurate number. Like that's based off of everything that the board approved, the cash balance that we had. I was using April numbers, and then I can just easily build in what the board has approved since then, and projects in 2022 that have not yet come before the board. We're just assuming they will go before the board, and it'll knock down this balance, and that gives us a really good, a good conservative starting balance. It could be higher than that if a project doesn't go in front of the board. What I mean, so like in the numbers that you see in the 2022 column, these are numbers that have either gone in front of the board and have already been approved, like this golf bridge, perfect examples, though. So it's already accounted for in that balance. Or if it hasn't gone in front of the board yet, like for example, building exterior envelope restoration, that hasn't gone in front of the board yet, but if it does, we're just assuming that it will. It's already reflected in this 2023 starting balance. It's already knocked down and reflected in the balance. And then basically, I'll just look at 2023. Then we have all these planned expenditures and capital in 2023. You know, just a real quick primer. We start off with the January 1 balance, the expected dues contributions, just, you know, like build in like a conservative interest income. Then we have the previous year's carry back, that 600,000 that the board set aside, which gives us a total expected starting balance or amount that we, you know, that will come in throughout 2023. Then I'm just going to quickly scan through this. Then we have the total expenditures. And then we have the total, what's called the residual balance, meaning the projected ending balance in 2023 for SURF based off of this. And then this residual balance, as you see, carries over and becomes the next year's beginning balance, and so on and so forth. So, and it's same way, same methodology for roads as well. So basically, I guess we could just quickly just scroll through this real fast and just focus on.
So I will have questions. Do you want me to wait till next week to ask them, or do you want me to ask them as we go along? Because like I said, I did review all this stuff, but I'm happy to wait till next week.
Well, I guess you just ask it as we go along.
All right, well, we go back to the top then?
Sure, yeah.
Sorry, guys. I was hoping we could do this next week. So last year I was on this committee, and for 2022 to 2023, we had a projected of $2,189,000 of expected reserves, with reserves of over $4 million. And then from 2023 to 24, what I'm going to get at is that where our reserves in our bottom line reserves are falling short of what they did projected last year. And I was wondering why in this scenario, we don't reach 4.5 million until 2032. And last year we had 4.5 million by 2025. And where is that? Where are the changes that have created that dramatic difference?
Yeah, this will be just like mathematically a function of projects, depending on where the project, if it's been identified for a project to be 2022 to still go in front of the board, or if it's something that, you know, that it's for whatever reason is moved up or decided that it's becoming a priority in 2023. All it takes is for some additions or subtractions to start to change those numbers or cause those numbers to like
I would say the other thing,
it's a large
Jean,
amount. Yeah, sorry.
Well, what I would suggest is if you go back and look at the budget prior to last year, because we actually brought it into the positive. That's why those numbers look like that last year, is the way that we budgeted. There, if you go back to the prior years, what you're going to see is that the reserves were overdrawn. You'll see you will see them operating in the red. We made a shift so that those that were not depleting the reserves, that were growing it. But what we did have to do is that we had to address a lot of deferred maintenance that's costing us quite a bit of money by continuing to delay and defer, which is so we spent there's about 2 million allocated this year. That'll start to slow down because we're catching up on all of that deferred maintenance pretty quickly. So that by the end of next year, most of that should be back on track, other than our roads, and that'll be addressed with the RFQ that AJ's put out, and then the engineer will come out, and there'll be a new type of roads plan. Because one of the things, even with this roads budget, is that even though it talks about culverts, it doesn't talk about ditching and all of the other things that are impacting the cost every time that we have to repair roads. There were a lot of things in here that were incorrect, like on our reserve study. There were $14 million in buildings that did not exist. We removed those. But on top of that, there were a lot of numbers that were totally inaccurate. Like it showed 9 golf course bridges and it had a replacement cost each of $9,000. We already know that all of them cost way more than that. The 8th hole bridge was $325,000. So we've made the appropriate adjustments. You'll see on here on the road section, that what we did with the golf course bridges is that there was another bridge that was replaced in 2011, but then starting in like 9 years, there'll be a bridge replaced every year on the golf course. So we're trying to address these issues in a more accurate way. The same thing with the golf course cart path has damage to it based on trees, and also it just needs to get repaved. It's actually a very, very expensive endeavor, close to $500,000. And so we've broken that out over a 3-year period of time. So some of these things, they haven't been being addressed, and it's various locations throughout the community. And so there is some initial upfront cost, but we've been very, very careful to ensure that we are not depleting the reserves. And like I said, and you can just go back 2 years ago and see that the reserves were very quickly operating in the red and were being depleted.
I agree. And if you remember, Sonia, last year, I actually I commended you guys for putting together a good budget. So, you know, the challenge that I had is the difference, and it sounds like there's more that we've had to spend on than was planned.
There's the November flooding event that happened.
Right.
That triggered the need to spend money.
Is the new building in this? Is the new building, I do have a question. Was there a partly cash paid for that new building in addition to the loan?
That's that surplus that Joel was pointing out, that we had a 500 and some change surplus. So the board voted to utilize that surplus as the down payment. So we only borrowed $1 million. And that's what you see in this very top there. It goes surf loan repayment. And then that has that annual payment for the surf loan. And what that did is that combined, because we were able to refinance the existing surf loan that we were currently paying, I think 4.75 or something like that on. And we were able to save a good deal in interest by combining the two and refining that down to that 4.25. So one of the things that will happen with that is that the surf loan will still be paid off at the same rate. It'll be paid off in 6 years, and then the 1850 property will be paid off in 8 years.
So where did that surplus come from? Just curious.
Yeah, basically in 2030, you can see these surf loan payments come to an end. Basically in 2031, there are none, because that loan is gone after that point.
So where did the surplus come from?
She's asking where the surplus from last year came from.
Oh, yeah, from operations. One good deal of that was PPP loan forgiveness.
Oh.
So that really fed into a lot of that, like 300 and some thousand bucks.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so Joel, I think that we've got like apparently a consensus to end the evening right now. Everybody's getting pretty tired. So I think, do you have anything you want to add? And then what we'll just have to do is pick this up, like I said, on Wednesday, but you guys are welcome to, just give us feedback, ask questions before Wednesday, and we'll start.
Well, did Joel want to go through the capital, and then people could just save their questions for next week or something? Does that make sense to finish?
Well, I'm just looking at there's a lot of chat.
Right. I was just saying that just to hold the questions, and Joel could finish his presentation tonight, and then everybody could write their. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's up to you all. Yeah. We're used to marathon meetings. I mean,
well, it might be best to ask the questions as you're going through it, so that everything sort of coordinates together.
Well, then we should wait.
Yeah, I think there's some people that have left also that probably would want to participate. So
yeah.
Yes, I don't know if I actually have a vote in this meeting, but I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn.
Let's go have our warm milk.
I think that's fine. I think the majority of people seem to be kind of wanting to wrap it up. Yeah, I think that's good. And like I said, don't hesitate. If you do have questions, you don't have to hold them until the next meeting. Just, you can email the group, you can email the board and the finance committee, and then we can start to put those together so we make sure that we're addressing all of it for everybody. Does that sound good?
Sounds beautiful.
All right. All right, next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Be here.
I'll second Callie's motion to adjourn then.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Guys, have a
Call
good
it.
week.
All those in
Bye,
favor?
everybody.
Aye.
Aye.
Good week.
Aye.
All
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Sonia.